Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here doing my spoiler discussion for Blame. If you guys want to check out my spoiler-free review of the film, definitely check the link in the description down below. Main reason for doing this, I mentioned in my spoiler-free review, I read the manga for this, so I was like, I have to do two different versions because I have to talk about the manga as it pertains to this movie. And initially, I didn't mention this in my spoiler-free review, but I did do a video and I was like, I'm talking too much about like all the spoilers and everything, so I was like, I want to keep it separate and kind of just do two reviews. That's what I normally do for movies anyway. And with this being such a unique thing, it's like almost two things to spoil. I was like, I kind of have to split it up, even if it's just like an anime movie on Netflix. I was like, I kind of have to split it up because I'm not just spoiling the movie, but there's some elements in the manga that I'm going to spoil as well. So I'll let you guys know, just right off the top, it won't be that spoilerish for the manga for anyone who's seen the movie and hasn't read the manga yet. I won't get like super crazy into it. I'll just, kind of explain some details, kind of just expand on what I did for my non-spoiler review. But starting right off, just going through like the whole movie itself, I'm just going to do that before getting into all the manga stuff. Thought it was really cool. Loved the opening action sequence, loved the darkness of it, loved the kind of the gore of it. I can't really say gore, it's not like super gory, but the dark tone of it I thought was really well done. Like it kind of comes up in spurts, like it's always there as far as like, oh, it's post-apocalyptic and it's sad, but you have the opening sequence where you have basically kids going out and they get killed off, and then the sequence where Kilian teams up with Shibo and they take everybody to like this factory and stuff, and then a bunch of people just start getting killed off left and right, and then of course you have the end of the movie where it's just pure chaos. And that was a great twist because I was like, I did not see that coming, where this girl gets killed and then she's taken over or replaced by a robot, and I was like, that was actually great. And then she's just wiping out everybody because she can see through the floors and people are just dying left and right, and it's super dark. And then Kilian has to fight against her, which was a great freaking fight sequence at the end. But those moments, like every time it happens, it's just dark. Like it's like, it's great action sequences, but there's always loss. Like there's not one fight sequence where it's like, oh man, everybody made it. Like thank goodness. It's always like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? These robots are coming in. We can't take them on. Especially at the end when people start getting taken out in their own village because I think it was like Sanaka was the official name of that robot. I don't think they actually give her a name, but that's like her name in the manga. Or Sanakan. And she like wipes out basically like, their security protocol and, the little iRobots and stuff, because that's kind of what they look like. They just start, coming in and wiping out people in the village. And it's just like, man, this is very dark. And that's an element, that is felt way more here than it is, personally speaking, from the manga. It's been years since I've read it, so there might be some elements where I'm kind of off for sure, because I read that back in like 2011. But, in the manga, it's definitely kind of detached, where it's not, it's not like, there's never really a point where it's like, oh, here's this village, and Kilian spends a buttload of time there, and he tries to save everybody. It's not really like that in the manga. So they changed it up for this, and I really love that. And, like, it definitely brings, just kind of that natural impact like any story will have if you have a bunch of characters where it's like, oh, they're down in the dumps, they don't really know how to survive, they're on their last legs, they barely have any food, they barely have any water, their source of food was like sludge in a pipe. So there's just a lot of stuff there where you can get attached to these characters, like, oh, they have it really tough, and then they're also fighting like crazy super robots. And Kilian comes along as the hero, and then Shibo comes along when they find her, which is, I love that sequence where they thought, like, for centuries, I guess, or generations, it was like, you can't go down there because there's like a ghost that messes with your mind and stuff. And I was like, that's actually a really cool way to do it. And it's just revealed that Shibo was like, I've been calling for help for a super long time, and because I'm so messed up, all I can do is make like these scattered images that constantly show up. I was like, that's actually a super cool way to explain like a ghost. It was her trying to send out a distress signal and call for help, but she couldn't make like a stable image. It was always shaking around, and it freaked people out, and they assumed it was a ghost messing with their head. And I was like, I actually love that idea. That was like such a simple moment in the movie, but I was like, that's actually really sweet, like a cool way to do what became like a ghost story. And I was like, that's actually awesome. So they do some really cool stuff in this that, like I said, been a long time, but I don't really remember from the manga, elements like that, the little ghost story of, specifically a village. There's definitely stuff of like, all the old times and how things used to be before, because it's post-apocalyptic. There's always some element of that, like how it used to be. But it was really cool. Like I love the way they, attach you to these characters, and it's so different from the manga where I'm used to just Kili and Shibo are like the two main characters, and there's some other people that show up, but it's not like this. And I thought that was actually definitely well done. So different the whole way through. I'm just like, so drastically different from the manga, but it was super cool. Like I loved all the action sequences. Like I said, every time Kili pulled the trigger, it was just like going back to reading the manga for the first time, because every time he did it, it was like this spectacle, because it was just such a powerful weapon. And like it's a weird experience, because it's like a weapon. It's like, oh, it's just a gun, but it's this insanely powerful gun, but he also can't use it. It's just like, if I remember right from what they did in the movie, that's very akin to what they do in the manga. Like he can't just go like boom 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 and just start shooting everything. It does take time, and he has to like charge up, or like use the things like he does in the movie. And it's always really, really cool, because he can't just go around shooting it like a normal handgun. He actually does have to like charge up to do it. And it was sweet, just like in the manga. I was like, I love this. Every time I see it, it was like a flashback. Like, yep, it was super freaking sweet. Killed everything, no challenge. So I love that for sure. Like I said, the ending action sequence was freaking amazing. And of course, everything, works out nice and fine. And Kili gives them like his guard thing so that he could get past all the security and stuff. Gives them that, lets them go down the elevator, and also Shibo goes down the elevator as well. And then they skip like 2 generations, because I think the girl Tay was her name, or maybe I think that may have been the girl that was replaced. But like the main girl, it was like her granddaughter was the one who was initially doing the narration for the story. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then it's like, it just goes on, and whatever they end up doing for the sequel can just pick up from there. Like, alright, it's already been, 2 generations, and Kili is still looking for the net terminal gene. Now, going into the manga, I definitely have to talk about character interactions, and like their first interactions, stuff like that. I won't get into like spoilers. I really can't, because I don't really remember everything from the manga. It was 2011 when I read it. But basically, how the characters meet, so different. Kili is like by himself for most of the manga, or I probably shouldn't say most of the manga, but for a huge chunk, it's just Kili by himself. So one of the big things when I was going into this movie and watching that first sequence, I was like, oh, this is a lot like the manga, because in the manga, in like the first chapter, he does save somebody. It's not like a group of people, but I just assumed it was the same thing, kind of just, more people, more suspense, and more action. But if I remember right, he does do the same thing, where it's like he ends up saving someone, it's a cool little thing, and then that's it. Like he moves on to the next level. Like that, I really do think is like the whole first chapter of that series. He's walking, and then he saves somebody from one of the machines, and then it's like, alright, they're like, thanks, no problem. And they get on an elevator and leave, or he gets on one and goes up. And that was it. Like that character never shows up again. If I remember right, once again, I could be wrong and say, take everything I say with a grain of salt as far as like, this is exactly what happened. But that was like the beginning of the series, and it was just like, oh, I've never seen that before. Like, save this character's life, he's the main character. And it's just like, yep, I'm out. I gotta find the net terminal gene, and that's it. So, very different from the movie where he, saves these people, and then it's like, oh, the village, and this is what happens, and this is how he meets Shibo. None of that happens in the manga. Like, that is not how that takes place at all. It's just him doing his thing, looking for the net terminal gene. Eventually, he comes across Shibo, and that's pretty much just how it plays out. Like, that's how they meet. The robot element is definitely still there. They're both... It's so weird. It's been so long, like I said, I don't remember. But just like in the movie, I don't remember a specific point where they truly explain the consistency of like what it means to be human, because Kili is a human technically, just like in the movie, but he can do all the same weird stuff, like the arm getting chopped off and everything. I think that's actually straight from the manga, if I remember right. And it's just like, yeah, I don't really know how human he is. He has like, the Terminator vision where he can like scan people's faces and all that. And it's the same with Shibo, where it's like, at one point she was, at least in the manga they specifically say that she was a human. And then she becomes a robot, and then it's just like, in the movie. And I think the version that they give her when she actually gets the body with like the super long legs, I think that's one of the versions, because she has multiple versions, because they do the transfer thing as another reference to the manga with her say like, I put my brain in my hand after she gets melted by the main villain at the end. It's a lot like that, where like she can die and it's just like, okay, new body. I'm a robot. I'm data. Just zip it out of here and put it in there because I keep, bodies are blowing up and stuff. So it's kind of like that. And I believe that was like her main body, the one that they show in the movie. I think it's like the main body that she has throughout most of the manga, like when we first meet her and stuff like that. So, that was pretty cool. They don't really do much with her. I think I mentioned that in my spoiler free review. I wish she got like a lot more time because she really is like the second main character of the entire series. It's not, and it's so different from the manga where it's just like the two of them. There are other characters that talk and stuff like that, but compared to the movie, it's like the whole village and all the people. It's just Kilian and Shivo, in the manga, and then they come across random people at random times as they're going along their mission for the net terminal gene. It's not like, a whole village and all these other characters. It's like two characters and or three characters, and one of those three characters is the main villain who shows up at the end of this movie. Sanakan. I keep going like Sanaka-kan. But Sanakan. So it's definitely cool, and like the movie itself, I think is really awesome. But I was so interested in seeing how the manga would translate, and it would be kind of tough. I mean, they couldn't do exactly what they do in the manga with he's just walking and he meets like one person. But I always felt like before I finally got to watch the movie, I always thought that would be such an easy manga to condense into almost 2 hours because all you have to do is speed through him going through all the stages. Have like maybe a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there, and it's him walking from this level to this level. He kills something or saves something, and he goes to the next level. You could easily show that through montage, and I thought it could totally work. And then just put all the actual story elements of the manga into the movie, and it's just like boom, because there's so little of him, so much of him just looking for the next step for the net terminal gene that I think you could do that. I don't really remember exactly how long the manga is, but you could definitely condense that. I personally felt they could have done that if they wanted to, but I also think it would have been much darker. Because it's definitely a dark movie, like with that sort of loneliness where it's mostly Killy for a long time before he meets Shivo. It creates a very different feeling, especially with, like a lack of dialogue. It's just kind of, you're really in the space. It's almost like, when you play like games where you make your own character and you're like, that avatar, it's like first person, but you're also like, even if you saw the character, it would look like you almost. It's kind of like that in Blame, at least the manga, where it's like this, even though you have Killy as the main character, there's so little happening, there's so little with him. He's this character almost in a video game where it's like, even when they say, this is the person you're playing, it might as well be you. Like, he barely talks, he barely has like any true emotions or any true elements of his own character outside of, this is basically my mission. And I would love to have seen a bit more of that in the movie, but I think, at least this is my hope, with what they did with this first movie, I'm assuming that the sequel will have much more of the feeling of the manga. And I think that's not a horrible way to do it because not everyone, I think, would be turned on by the feeling of the manga in the first film. Do the first film kind of more normalized, where it's like, here's the story of this village and the hero's coming in to help this village, and then he goes off to continue his journey afterwards. And then the second one picks up and it's a lot more like the manga where it's just him by himself after he saved that village, decades ago. It's just Killy kind of going on this journey. And they could do whatever they wanted, I guess, with Shibo, because they did the whole thing where she put her brain into the arm. Maybe she comes across him again, and once again, that would just change up how they met in the manga. Or they reconnect, I guess. But, they could still do it that way, where they just meet up again, and then it's closer to the original manga. But either way, I'm looking forward to the sequel. Really enjoyed this movie. I would love to see more element, basically more, it's almost weird to say more emotion because it would be more of the lack of emotion, I guess, from the manga because it's just so detached from anything when it's just Killy for a long time. And then Chibo kind of comes in, she's kind of the lighthearted character, and that's after a while of just like, Killy's just doing his thing, and it's just like, let's see what happens next. It's just the world, and you don't really have any sort of true attachment to it. You're just kind of there, and you just wonder what's coming next. So it's not that same attachment as the movie. So I kind of hope we get that distance a bit in the sequel. If it was done 100%, I wouldn't hate it just because I like that unique sort of storytelling. I don't think that will work for everybody because it is so incredibly distant in the manga, but I always thought it was really unique, and it's always been one of my favorites just because it's something that I've never, you just don't really see that where someone makes a whole manga and the actual main character barely says anything. Like every other character, I believe, except for maybe the main villain, because the safeguards and stuff don't really speak. They have, you know, like there's the overarching robot voice. Um, but yeah, outside of that, I'm pretty sure Kilian says like the least out of every character in the entire manga. Even like some of the side characters that he meets, except for like that first chapter, because you never see that character again, I don't think. Um, I think he says like the least out of all the characters that show up in the manga. So it's just interesting, and I would love to see that sort of detached feeling in the sequel. But that's because I really love the manga. So it's hard to say if that'll work for everybody, but that my personal opinion, I would love to see something closer to the manga, just because I like that unique sort of storytelling of just this silence. It's just a character kind of walking in this wasteland, um, and just, you know, trying to complete his goal, and it's just like he goes from level to level to level. And I read somewhere that it was like, apparently, and I guess I just never remembered this or picked it up maybe, but apparently the manga takes place over like 1,000 years or something insane like that, with him going through the different levels. And I was like, I definitely don't remember that part, but apparently that's a thing in the manga, that it's like this huge passage of time. I don't remember that at all. I remember them showing like he's on this level or this level. I do kind of remember that a little bit from time to time, but I definitely don't remember them saying it's been like this many years, and it's like over, you know, centuries and centuries, you know, throughout the span of the manga. I definitely didn't remember that, but they kind of pick up on that a little bit at the end of the movie too. So I was like, they're kind of touching on it a little bit, but really enjoyed the film. I'm excited to see how they continue to do this version of the story. You know, you have Shibo and Kili where they already met under completely different circumstances, saving like this whole village and stuff like that. I would love to see how that works out. One of my big things that I mentioned in my spoiler-free review, as far as the villain, I mean, they could technically, it's robots, so they could just be like, oh, it's just her again. But she was like, Sanagan was like the main villain for the manga. Like, she was the one who was always like coming after them, even to like the end of the manga. Like, she was the main villain, which is why she was the main villain at the end of the movie. And they beat her. Like, she's gone. By the end of the movie. So I'm like, they could just say like, oh, it's just another version of her, and that's probably what they'll do. But I was like, oh, that's very interesting. She was like the only villain. They have like the little robots, but obviously you have like a set main villain, and you know, she's not like a big part of the story of the movie either. She just like, that's like a twist, you know, at the end of the film, which was still really cool. But yeah, she's like the main villain for the manga, and it was just like, oh, that's interesting. Like, if they kill, you know, with her being killed off, like I said, robots, they could just easily be like, yeah, poof, the second, second version of her. So they could make it super simple if they want to. But that was one of those interesting elements. It's like, you know, it's not like they killed off Kili or they officially killed off Shibo. Like, she had another body she could go to. Kili, of course, survived, but the main villain that we know of, you know, for manga readers at least, she's gone. Like, she's killed off at the end of the first movie. So it's just like, I wonder what they'll do with that. I'm curious if they'll make a new villain, or if they will just be like, yeah, it's just her, like updated, or you know, they just all the safeguards look this way, and they, you know, they do that sort of thing, which they could, and it would be like, yeah, that makes sense because robots, why not? But I just thought that would be interesting. I wouldn't hate it if they changed it, just because they changed so much anyway with the first movie being so different from the manga. I'd actually love to see them make like a brand new villain, or something inspired by some of the stuff, like the crazier stuff that's like I'm telling you, towards the end of the manga, there's some stuff that gets really, really freaking nuts. Like, the end of the manga is just, it's really good. Like, I love the whole manga. But when it gets to, like, maybe it's like the last 2 volumes, or maybe last 3, there's some stuff that happens where you're just like, I never would have seen that come in. As crazy as this thing is and what they're talking about, it goes to, like, a whole other realm with how crazy things get towards the end of this manga. And I was just like, huh, that is not what I was expecting, but I do love it. Highly recommend you check out the manga. Hopefully I haven't spoiled too much for you guys. Like I said, I basically just say they meet differently and the main villain's the main villain. That's pretty much all I've truly spoiled. But because it's really good. I highly recommend the manga. Like I said, I do love the movie. Very excited to see what they will do with the sequel. There are side characters that they could throw in there. I'd have to like reread the manga to really remember who is who, because I had to like look up some stuff, because I didn't even really remember characters' names outside of Kili. But I'm excited for the sequel, and if I remember right, I'm pretty sure there is a Blame 2 manga. I was trying to look it up before I did this review, Before I even watched the movie, I was trying to look it up because I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's a second Blame manga. I couldn't find any images, but I'm pretty sure there is, like Blame 2, the manga. I'm pretty sure that's an actual thing. So maybe they'll do that, although they can't. For spoiler reasons of the manga, they can't do that yet, unless they just skipped over everything and just jumped to it. I don't think that would be a good idea, but I guess technically they could if they wanted to. But I hope that's not the case. I hope that that's not what they end up doing, because that would be kind of stupid to just skip over everything and be like, yeah, this is what happened. It's like, oh, well, that, why not just make that a second movie? Maybe make Blame 2 a third movie. If I'm remembering right. I'm pretty sure that is a thing. I just couldn't find it like at all when I Googled it. I kept coming up with the second volume of the manga, so I'm like, pretty sure that's real. Could just be in my head from 2011 though. But yeah, I'm excited for whatever they're going to end up doing with the sequel. Of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about the movie, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. For those of you that have read the manga like I have, especially if it's more recent, I would love to know your feelings for the movie and what they did with the story and how they changed elements around and with the characters. Would love to know what you guys want to see in the sequel, especially for manga readers, like what elements that you guys can think of that stick on in your mind. Obviously put spoiler tags, even though this is a spoiler review, for the manga readers that have not read, or for the people that have not read the manga, have not become manga readers of Blame. I still want to keep that kind of a mystery because it's so drastically different. It's still so much to spoil. As crazy as it is, because it's such a crazy epic manga, there's still some spoilers to be had there. So if you're going to talk about the manga, just, please put a spoiler tag. I'd appreciate that. And I'm sure other people would as well. So please do that. But of course, we'd love to know what all of you guys thought about this film, whether you read the manga, whether you haven't, if you're looking forward to the sequel in any capacity, manga reader or just, movie watcher. We'd love to know what you guys would like to see, what ideas are kind of going through your head after you're kind of coming out of the end of this film. As a manga reader, there are things I can't really say because of spoilers, but basically I just want the end of the manga to actually happen in movie form because it's so freaking crazy, and it's just like, I don't know if it would have the same impact because that was like reading through a manga compared to a 2-hour movie, but I think it would still be enough of an impact. If you didn't see it coming, I think it would still be really good, and just like, holy crap, I didn't think that's how that would end ultimately. So I would love to see that happen, just plain and simple. Whatever they do, just lead to like those last 2 or 3 volumes of the manga and just cramp it all together and just make it work. I would love that personally. But like I said, I want to know what you guys want to see and what you guys thought about the film in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.